This month in One Piece, the OP11 meta began and a new face rose to the top. Most of 2025's products have been revealed. And finally, global release at last. So it's been quite a while since I've done one of these. Typically I do these every week, however it's been so long. This one is going to be this month in One Piece. Starting off with the new card, there's only one since I made my last news video. We've had this guy out now for a little while now. This is 771k Kobe, Navy Sword. Opponent's turn, it gains minus 3000 power, and when you attack, if your leader has the Navy type, it got your base of the power of your leader becomes 7000 until the end of your opponent's next turn. This has proven itself to be a really good card in Kobe, especially when summoned off Helmeppo. Between a 2 and a 4 off currently, it's up to interpretation how popular this is going to be. Sadly, a promo, so who knows when we'll actually get this, but this does look like an integral piece of the Kobe deck. Now moving into the tournaments, we had this tournament over in Australia. This was the TAC Games February Treasure Cup, and the top 16 was overwhelmingly Doflamingo, with a couple of black yellows and a couple of Luccis, one NL, one Bonnie, and one Yamato squeaking in there. I'm not going to show you the winning Dofi list because it looks the same as every other winning Dofi list. However, I will show you this 6th place 7-1 Yamato list by Josh. This is really cool. Yamato has been doing absolutely nothing for quite a while. So to see this go 7-1 and get top 8, very impressive. Probably going to do a video on Yamato sometime soon. Massive congratulations to Josh for their finish. And make sure you give this list a go if you're a Yamato fan. Next up, we had the Top Cut events, February Treasure Cup, and this one is slightly less Doflamingo, but still very Doflamingo. Top 32, we've got 13 Dofi, 5 BY, 4 Pluffy, 3 Shanks, 2 RP Luffy, 2 Lucci, a Bonnie, and an L, and a Teach. So Blackbeard notably has been doing a lot worse in the West than it did in the East, even in the 09 format. Obviously, in set 10, going to get much stronger with the introduction of both Liberation and Kuzan. But I think that is an interesting point to sort of focus on. I wonder why. Is it just that the West loves Doflamingo? Is it that the East has figured something about Teach that we haven't? But either way, this event was taken down by Picante Jose with their version of Black Yellow Luffy. This is their list. It's fairly similar to every other Black Yellow Luffy deck you've seen. One-offs of each of these are random blockers. Got a Trash Luffy for the mirror, and one of the Yellow Sabo for a little bit of KO redundancy. Really nice list. Congratulations to Picante Jose for their win. And then last for the events, we had Sang Sang Events Treasure Cup, and this was even less Doflamingo, interestingly. Top 16, 5 Dofi, 3 NL, 2 Shanks, 2 Lucci, 1 BY, 1 Purple Black Luffy, a Nami and a Bonnie. The tournament was taken down by Doflamingo, so again, I'm not going to show you the Doflamingo list. I am going to show you this top 16 Purple Black Luffy list, because this is quite different than what most other people have been playing. Got a couple of copies of the Shiki blocker. We're going on 3 of the Beppo to increase our aggression. 3 of this Brook is pretty interesting. Seen this in red-purple, not so much in purple-black. So that's an interesting one. 4 copies of the Gum Gum Lightning. Interesting that this has been chosen over Top Knot. But clearly worked out for Arturo on the day. And 3 copies of Borsalino is another weird one. Along with only 3 copies of the Law Searcher. Really wacky list. I'm looking forward to giving this one a go myself. Massive congratulations to Arturo for their finish. And let's move on to the news portion of the video. First, meta breakdown from OP11. This was the first day out in Japan that OP11 was legal. And massive shout out to OP Hirata on X. Make sure you give them a follow. They post all these graphics with all flagship data out of Japan, which is really nice to see. The visuals are excellent. And as you can see, Blue-Purple Luffy was incredibly dominant on this first day. I do think this will fall off a little bit as the meta goes on and people work out what's good into what. However, 25, that's crazy. The next best is 6. There were a few errors in this image due to stores misreporting. Make sure you read this tweet if you want to read about that, but generally this is pretty cool. Got a win for green yellow lore, maybe making advantage of that new Bedge blocker. 4 Zoros. Zoro always does well in the new metas. 1 purple Katakuri, and interestingly, no blue yellow Nami. So I do want to know, I think personally, that blue yellow Nami has a really bad blue purple Luffy matchup. So the prevalence of this deck could be what's keeping them out, but we'll just have to see. The second day looked a little bit like this. You had still massively predominant blue-purple Luffy, however, significantly less. And Bello Betty, of all decks, creeping into second place. 5 Bettys is crazy. We've not seen Betty be like genuinely meta ever. So this is quite exciting. I'm excited to see if this will continue, or if it's just a meta call because everyone's on blue-purple Luffy. And this is probably about the best deck into blue-purple Luffy. Got a few interesting decks on 1s and 2s, 2 of the purple Katakuri. And then on 1 we've got red-green Odin, which is odd. And we've also got 1 Hannibal, which I don't think I've ever seen Hannibal win a tournament. So I'm excited to check that out. May do a video on Hannibal soon, let me know if you want to see that. But either way, it looks like in OP11 this meta is going to be early dominated by blue-purple Luffy. The deck is incredibly powerful, and everyone else is just trying to compete. However, I do think as the meta develops, we will see this deck fall off a little bit. May well still be number 1, but I don't think we're going to be seeing these types of numbers again. Next up, and this is the news that so many people have been hoping for. At the end of the One Piece Day event over in Dallas in the States, they announced that in 2026, that's next year, all language versions will be released at the same time. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to end up working out for the Koreans, because they're in like OP05. Are they going to get like 10 sets within a year? I don't know what Bandai's going to do with that, but for us in the West, we're going to have to catch up 1 set. That's going to be pretty easy. We'll just get an extra set probably within the next year. Maybe they'll shorten each of the release periods by around a month or so to accommodate for that. And I think this is going to be incredible for the growth of the game. Having all the regions on the same playing field is going to make it much more fair when it comes to Worlds, for sure. And on top of that, it's going to give the West, and indeed Korea, much more room to cook in metas that aren't already sort of solved when they come to us. Which I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be great for everyone. In terms of my channel, it's just going to be good. More eyes. I only have to play 1 meta, so hopefully I'll get a bit better at the game. Swapping and changing between like 9, 10, EBO1, and then 11, it's quite challenging, honestly. But I'm really excited by this. I know you are too. This is going to be brilliant. I just hope it's early 2026 and not December 2026, because that would be a little disappointing. Now we have this product plan for 2025 released, or leaked. This is the bigger version. They showed a smaller one at One Piece Day. However, this version includes September through November. So as you can see, this is for the West. In this month, March, we're getting OP10, the new starter deck, Double Pack 6, which I believe has been revised to Tin Set 1. And then we're getting some sleeves. May, we're getting EBO2, we knew that. June is going to be OP11 and the big wave of starter decks. And the interesting thing for this starter deck wave is we're actually getting them slightly before Japan. It's only going to be by like a week or so. But that's still pretty cool. And this is coming a set earlier for us, because in June, Japan's going to be in OP12. So they're going to get this introduction of 6 buffed leaders a set later than us. So it will make our OP11 meta potentially very different from theirs. That will remain to be seen by how impactful these decks actually are. But I think just the premise that our meta in OP11 could be completely different from the Japanese one is pretty cool. Because the last wave of 6 decks completely changed the game. Pluffy got really good. Dofi got insane. The others were less exciting, but Smoker came back and that was pretty cool. So I'm excited to see if these decks do the same thing. And the fact that we're getting them at the same time as Japan, I think it's going to make OP11 really exciting for us, because everything's going to have to be revisited with these decks in mind. Also getting a new double pack and a set of sleeves. In August, We're going to get OP12, and note that's just 2 months. So this could be the start of them reducing the distance between these releases. Going to be a little tough on your wallet, perhaps, but it's going to be a good thing long term. We're also, with that, getting a double pack and a sleeve. September, PRBO2. There's plenty of cards that I think we're all hoping are going to be in there. Cavendish, Brook, Laboon, loads more EBO1 cards. Bonclay, Rayleigh. 9-cost Sanji now is getting pretty crazy. But that's going to come at a really good time, I think. Especially with the releases potentially getting close together. This reducing the price of staples is going to be a great time to get into One Piece. And we're also getting Starter Deck 22 very late after 23 to 28. Which is a little odd, but hey, I'd rather have 6 to spice up the meta than just 1 that will likely do less. And then looking far into the future, November, we're getting OP13. We've got a little bit more information on OP13 in a minute, so stay tuned. We're also getting a set of tins with this set, instead of a double pack. If you're a big tin fan, great news. And of course, they're selling us some more terrible sleeves. This is an image that was revealed quite a while ago now of the 6 starter decks. So this is confirmation of what the leaders are going to be. We had this revealed quite a way back now. I've been slacking on the news. However, this is pretty cool. These alt art leaders, presumably this is going to be the card art. They look pretty cool. I'm a fan. I think they will look better than the base version. They're not going to compete with the alt arts, but hey, it is what it is. I do find it somewhat interesting that 4 of these are from OP09. Obviously, only Bonnie and Yamato are older. And most of these are already pretty reasonable decks, so this could make some of these into real meta threats. The Blackbeard one, I think, is the one that people are most concerned about, because Blackbeard's already arguably tier 1, if we're looking ahead to OP10. Shanks and Bonnie could make them incredible. Buggy definitely needs support, and the same for Purple Black, Luffy, and Yamato. Both these leaders are reasonable, but a bit more support, I think, will go a long way. I am going to have a little bit of discussion later in the video about cards that I hope might be reprinted, and some cards you could get ahead on the game on and pick up now. So, here's the last bit of new info on these starter decks. There's going to be 5 cards with new text in each colour. So, presumably this is not going to be erratas, this is going to be brand new cards. The same as it was for the last wave of 6. And that's pretty cool. It's what we expected, but you can't complain. Simple leader effects make this an ideal product for newcomers. I mean, Blackbeard's right there. This is not an ideal product for newcomers. New players should not be playing Blackbeard. I'm sorry, I disagree with this massively. All these other ones, yeah, they're all fairly straightforward. Maybe Bonnie less so. But Blackbeard is... That's just wrong. All these decks are going to include a pack of OP11, which will lessen the burden of having to buy 12 decks a little bit, I suppose. You'll get half a box for your troubles, in effect. Not as exciting as last time when it was PRB, but hey, I'll take anything I can get. And this was also expected, but this is just confirmation that we'll also be having a starter deck tournament with these. This is going to be throughout the month of June, and you're going to get some sort of prizing for winning. We don't know exactly what this is yet. If the last one was anything to go off, it was a card that you could add to your deck, make it a little better. And then the winner one was just a hollow version. They were quite underwhelming last time. Hopefully we might get something better. And I don't think these pictures are very representative. I don't imagine they're going to give us the film Luffy in the Bonnie deck. Maybe the Onami for the Yamato deck. I don't know, either way, it's a little weird. But cool to see that we are confirmed getting an event for these. I always love these starter deck events. They're pretty good fun. Next up, very small amount of information about OP13. This is going to be our 3rd anniversary set, 4 sets after OP09, of course. So the theme is going to be the 3 brothers. I'm not going to lie, man, I'm sick of Luffy. Can we have one set without Luffy leaders in it? That would be great. Thanks, Bandai. But anyway, if you like Ace or Sabo, this could be a good set for you. We haven't had like that much Ace and Sabo love in a little bit, so that's pretty cool. Would also be cool if we got like a leader with all 3 of them together, right? That would be pretty interesting. We also got this information about a new type of store event, at least new to the West. It's going to be a 2v2, so you're going to team up with a buddy, and you two are going to play against 2 other dudes, and you'll face one-on-one, of course. This is not some kind of a battle royale, but you're going to face off against another pair, and we'll see who becomes the Pirate King. The participation for this is going to be a normal version of this Crocodile promo, and then the winner one is going to be the full art holo version. I've blown it up here so you can read it. It's honestly not that great. It's a card you can include in Buggy, but it is somewhat underwhelming, it must be said. Next up, we're getting a bunch more sleeves. The art is great, but the quality is garbage. Bandai, I beg, please do something with Dragon Shield. Make your sleeves better quality. That would be amazing. Enough said. This art's great though. I really like the kid in particular. I'm not even a kid fan, but this art's great. Chopper is awesome too. Next up, we got a very small amount of news for Starter Deck 22. This is coming out at the end of April in the East, so we should start getting card reveals for this maybe in a couple of weeks from now. And we have got confirmation that the leader is Ace and Whitebeard teaming up together, similar to Zoro and Sanji, which is what everyone was expecting, but I don't think we had official confirmation before this. This was leaked from a magazine. Most of the other information that's in Japanese here, I've had a look. There's nothing very revealing in this. However, confirmation that it is Ace and Whitebeard is pretty cool. Next up, I've got a segment going over the 6 starter decks that are being released in June, what we think could be reprinted in them, that has any kind of value or rarity, and then some cards that you could pick up to get an advantage on the game. I'm not going to be covering cards that are worth absolute pennies, however, these are just going to be some of my picks. For Shanks, I think the only relevant card that could do with a reprint, in quotation marks, is this promo Shanks. I just hate promos. I wish they would make them more available, and putting it in the starter deck I think is a really good place to start. This card's not great, but just give everyone the way to get it. They did this last time with the Bartolomeo promo and all of the promo events from the Uta deck, so I think it's likely we'll see a lot of promos reprinted again. In terms of cards you could buy to get ahead of the game, all these cards are good already. I don't think Shanks particularly has anything that interesting. He's a brand new leader pretty much, so all the cards are kind of new out. But I do think picking up these, especially Ben, Shanks, and Shanks, while they're very cheap, is a good idea. I don't see especially Ben and Rush Shanks going anywhere. And I think while they're like £1 or £2, you need to pick these up before they start going up. And one more thing I'll say is the reprints from last time, they didn't reprint SRs. They only reprinted up to rares. So that's why I don't think anything like Ben Beckman is going to get a reprint. And even cards in the next few slides that could really do with a reprint, if they're SRs, I just don't think they will. Next up, Bonnie. I think this one is a little more interesting. There's a few cards now that are getting a little bit hard to come by. The Bonnie Searcher goes for a couple bucks, and the Apu 2K isn't particularly valuable, but he's just kind of hard to get because these starter decks have been out of print for so long. And the same thing with Straw Sword. This is seeing no play, and is already going for like £1 in the UK. So I think a reprint of this just makes sense. There's nothing else they really need to reprint for Bonnie. Most of the commons that this deck plays are pretty underwhelming. I do think one thing with this leader in specific to say is this is definitely getting a new 2K. These are the only 2 green Supernova 2Ks, believe it or not. They're both really, really bad. And they're both kind of awkward to get hold of, because this is EB, and this is a starter deck. So I think this deck is definitely going to include a new green Supernova 2K, which is pretty cool. Hopefully it's one that you're excited to play out, and not garbage like this. The Searcher, I think, is a guaranteed thing. They're definitely reprinting this Searcher in this. Would love to see it with new art, but I don't think that's happening. And if you want to get ahead of the game, these are the cards that are pretty good in these Bonnie decks. Cavendish is so expensive, man, but I just can't see them reprinting it because it's an SR. I really hope I'm wrong. This is probably the card, possibly in the game, that needs a reprint the most. But if Bonnie does get good, This is going to be a 4 of, so you might have to shell out now if you're not willing to wait for PRBO2. These other cards are all mostly just tech choices. Kid has dropped, and he's starting to go back up again, and the same with Dofi. I think these two you should just own a playset of. They're always good in green decks. Cody Jones is the same. This Shanks is more meta dependent. If there's a meta where there's lots of big characters and Shanks can get a lot of value, he's great. In a meta with lots of Doflamingos, the card is very bad. Bonnie and Basil and Carrot are all very cheap at the minute. Not guaranteed that any of these would see play in a Bonnie deck after this starter deck, but you may as well pick them up while they're cheap. Buggy, I think, is the least interesting one of the 6. There's these 3 promos. This is the 2v2 Buddy Battle promo that we talked about earlier. This Buggy promo is from the pre-release. I believe this Mihawk is some kind of regional event pack promo. I'd love to see all 3 of these in here. I'm not sure they will do the Crocodile because that Buddy Battle thing is happening around the same time as this. But I think the Foot Buggy and the Mihawk would just be great ones to see in this pack. I really hope that's what they decide to do. There is nothing in this deck that needs a reprint. Oh, and one more thing I should mention with these decks, actually. All the cards in these decks last time were of the same type as the leader. So I'm assuming that every card in the Buggy deck is going to be a cross-guild card, and every card in the Bonnie deck is going to be either a Supernovas or Bonnie Pirates card. So I think that is limiting what I'm suggesting for reprints a little bit. For example, Shanks, a Red Hawk reprint would be great. Buggy, a Raging Tiger reprint would be cool. But I just don't think they will. I think they want these decks to be based around the type. So I don't foresee a Raging Tiger reprint, for example. These are the cards you could buy to get ahead. All of these are very cheap at the minute. Mr. 1, I believe, is still pennies. And Crocodile and Mihawk are all only a very small amount of pennies as well. So I would definitely buy these if you think you enjoy the Buggy playstyle and would want to play him in the future once he gets a bit of a buff. The 10 cost Buggy you could buy as well, but I don't think that's going to get really expensive. And honestly, I think that's one that's likely to be reprinted in this. Next up, Purple Black Luffy. I don't think there's much value at all in this deck, really, that might get reprinted. Gum Gum Giant and Lore, I guess. Both are running like $1 or less. It's not very exciting. These are the cards that are sort of exclusive to Purple Black Luffy that you could buy. Frankie is great. Sanji is great for going for game. The Black Sanji, I think, is one that is worth owning. Don't see this getting a reprint in the deck. And Starter Deck 14 has been out of print for a little while now. Purple Luffy, the secret rare, is always worth owning, even if it doesn't end up going in this deck. And Kaido is very, very cheap and has been a bit of a tech option in this deck, so you could pick him up if you want to. It is worth noting that this is the purple deck, so unless they do something new, I'd imagine most of these cards are going to be purple, which does also give them the potential to be good in mono purple Luffy as well as red purple Luffy. He's hoping they don't buff those decks too much and give this guy the support he needs. Teach. I don't think there's anything in Teach that needs a reprint. Like, all of Teach's cards are brand new. There's no promos. What do I talk about? I'm going to talk about Kuzan and Teach. These are cards that you could get to get ahead of the curve. I don't see either of these getting reprinted because they're both SRs. Teach running about $1. Kuzan not actually out yet, but will be out very soon. And for a good 3 months before this deck comes out. So I think if you're a Blackbeard fan and this Kuzan doesn't get banned, because there is some small talk of that, picking up a playset of each of these makes a lot of sense to me. Yamato is the last one, and I think the support for this is going to be really exciting. I've just got a feeling, man. I don't know why, I'm just feeling it. Cards that I hope get reprinted. None of these are crazy expensive. I think Otama makes a lot of sense. It's a nice 2k. It's an OP07 card, so it's been out of print for a little while. And just more copies of this is pretty good. Iori is an EB01 card. Doesn't have any value at the minute. But some of these EB rares, we've seen what they do when they start becoming playable. So I do foresee this getting reprinted. And Kiku Nojo was honestly a bit strange that it didn't get reprinted in PRB. They reprinted Noko Momushi and Inu Arashi, but not Kiku Nojo. Those three went together in OP06, and Kiku was by far the best one. So I don't know about that, but I do think she'll probably get a reprint in this deck. Cards you could buy to get a bit ahead of the curve. Onami, I think, is a really good one. It's not a Wano card, obviously, but it is pretty good with this leader. Banish double attack, you know how good that is, it's no joke. And this is slowly creeping up. We've seen some of these older rares, things like Raging Tiger, go for a couple bucks. So I would pick up Nami while she's still pennies. Momo, very cheap, but very good in Yamato. This has been a staple card in Yamato forever. It's a 5-cost blocker that heals. That's great. This is definitely not going to go to reprint because it's an SR. So I think picking up a playset of these while they're like cents only makes sense. Oni Jones is a classic in Yamato as well. I'm sure you got 4 of these already, but pick them up if you don't. Iori is creeping up, not just because of this, but because of blue-yellow Nami. So I think picking up a playset of these while they're still around $1 or $2 makes a lot of sense. Nami, I think, is one that could get removed from this deck if we get the right cards. And the same with Mihawk. But if you want to be safe, both of these are pretty good cards in the Yamato deck. Mihawk giving it even more aggression. And if we get more slash trait cards, which we probably will, because the Wano arc was always very based around samurai and swords and things, this could be pretty cool. And the Nami is just the best removal card on 5. It's so much better than Gadatsu. It's a crazy card. And having a playset of this is no bad thing anyway. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Which products are you most excited for? What do you think is going to happen to Blue Purple Luffy? And what do you think of the worldwide release? That's the one I'm most excited for. I can't wait. I really hope it's early 2026. I'm sure we'll get more news on that soon. But with that said, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.